Married at 17, husband dies after 5 years and left to care for a snake. 5 years into my marriage, my husband died, leaving me with 2 children, a boy and a girl. As life got tough in that homestead, experiencing very mysterious things, including having to feed some snake and a very queer cat, I was inherited by brother to my late husband, as in accordance with the Luo tradition. Again, I got 2 children with him, a boy and a girl. Things turned for the worse, and through mysterious powers, I came very close to losing all my children. This was the final blow. I packed and left to save my children. I have survived by brewing the local brew with numerous police arrests. I have burnt charcoal. I have washed people's clothes, tilled their land, and today I have decided to shout out. Viewer, welcome to a sad story that may leave your heart jelly-like. Witchcraft is real, albeit in communities coming from western part of Kenya. Stories of dead bodies refusing to be taken home are very common.
When the body of a 25-year-old casual worker was stuck on the streets of the busy town for more than 20 hours. Now, relatives claimed that the deceased had refused to go home for burial.
Now, 2 vehicles that were to ferry the body home developed mechanical problems, but when the relatives pleaded with the cops, the journey eventually progressed.
Where the vehicle carrying the body shuts down completely, the engine just stops running.
Mimi naitwa Margaret Awuor wako. Niliolewa nikiwa mdogo sana. Baada ya kuolewa nilipitia mambo mengi. Sikuona furaha juu ya ndani ya ndoa sana. Nilipoolewa baada ya miaka 5, bwana akaaga akaniacha na watoto 2 wadogo sana. Sasa baadaye maisha ikaanza kunigonga nikiwa napitia kupika chang'aa, kutengeneza kuchoma makaa ili nipate njia yenye nazalisha naye watoto wangu, na hakuna mwenye alikuwa anafurahia hiyo mambo yangu sana. Hata nikijaribu kuongea na mother-in-law hakuwa anaweza kunisikiliza.
My name is Margaret Awuor Owoko from Omala village in Ogonja, Siaya County. I was married at a tender age of 16 or 17 thereabout. And looking back, I realized that I never really enjoyed marriage life to date. Unfortunately, my mother-in-law didn't really like me for what she termed as being tough-headed. Earlier, she had wanted to recruit me into her lifestyle where she was into some strange spiritual beliefs. She wanted me to be caring for a serpent and a strange cat. I was not comfortable with this arrangement and outrightly I refused, pitting me against her sins. My husband died, leaving me a very young widow. I tried to fend my children and myself, though with a lot of difficulties. Being so vulnerable, I was inherited by my brother-in-law, with whom we got 2 more children, a boy and a girl. Even after being inherited by my brother-in-law, life didn't really improve, but got even worse as my mother-in-law increased her aggression towards me. Finally, my new husband disengaged from me, leaving me with a burden of 4 children. Life became very dark, with every other day becoming darker than the previous. Coming from a very poor family, I had nowhere else to go, and as such I decided to stay put, despite the challenges. My mother-in-law demanded that I keep a cat in my house, despite my objection that I didn't really need a cat. She said that the cat was our visitor and I have to persevere and stay with it. Interestingly, the cat never used to eat any food. The farming not giving me and my children enough, I decided to try business of selling second-hand clothes. It started well, but the frustration from my mother-in-law couldn't allow me to reap the benefits.
Nilipojaribu kumuulizia juu ya hii paka, aliniambia hiyo ni mgeni wetu, nivumilie tu tukae nayo. Nilichukua hiyo paka nikaenda nikatupa. Baada ya kutupa hiyo paka, Ugonjwa ikaanza kuingia kwa nyumba, watoto wanagonjeka wote, mwingine anakohoa, anatabika damu, mwingine ndio hiyo tumbo.
My house and all efforts to kick it out were unsuccessful. Was the loss of the money as a result of the cat? This thing kept on bothering me and crossing my mind. Later on, I caught the cat, put it in a bag, a sack, and I threw it very far away. After I threw it away, strange sicknesses started descending on my children. My children started contracting very kind of strange and mysterious sicknesses which could not be diagnosed. My youngest child, for example, became so ill that I had to take him to Legio Maria sect. My mother-in-law was very angry with me and even told me that there is no place that is too far for the devil, for he doesn't board a vehicle. As fate would have it, the boy was prayed for by the sect church and fully recovered. At some point, the business collapsed because I was constantly losing the capital mysteriously. Food that I cooked for my children would also vanish from the house, despite locking it up in the cupboard and locking the door. At some point, I ventured into brewing of local brew. The business seemed to be doing very well, and now I could meet my obligation of caring for my children. Though I would still lose money from the house, often I would put it in safe custody of a friend. However, sometimes the police officers would conduct operation on brewers and I would be arrested and be locked up in the cells. Whenever this happened, I would use all my savings to buy my freedom from the police authority. At some point, I realized that I was only enriching the police officers and I quit the business. Well, how I wish that the police officers conducting such operations would do so with a human heart. Some of the brewers are really doing very badly. They are doing so from the edge of death and hell. And I hope that any police officers who get to listen to this, they will change their heart. I started washing people's clothes, weeding their farm, but the earnings were not enough. Even some people I weeded for would not pay me, or they would pay me even less than I had worked for. I resorted to burning charcoal in the village to try and fend for my family. There are moments I would weep the whole night and remember how much my husband had loved me and wondered if I would be going through this hardship if he had been alive. Meanwhile, my mother-in-law had brought me another visitor, this time a serpent, a big snake. I was required to feed it and take care of it, but I refused. She warned me of dire consequences for disobeying her, and sure to her threat, calamity struck. I decided to take my children to exile, to my mother, though old and poor. My mother-in-law demanded that I return the children back to the homestead. I was reluctant at first, but after some threats, I decided to return them. On their way back home, being ferried on a motorbike, they had a grisly accident after a head-on collision with a vehicle which was being driven by a drunken driver and who was driving on the wrong lane. All my 3 children, coming from my mother's place, were seriously injured, suffering fractures to their limbs, ribs, and even head. Surprisingly, the motorbike rider did not suffer any injury, save for minor soft tissue bruises. I was called and informed that I should go and collect corpses to my children. Only the one who I had hidden at the church survived the crash. My nightmare had reached a climax. I had no single coin with me. I was asked to put a down payment of Kenya shillings 100,000 for their treatment to commence. All I could do was wail and ask for death to take me. To date, my son has a metal in his leg and has never been removed for lack of money. My mother-in-law never gave me any assistance or even moral support. She never consoled me. I was all by myself. Viewer, you are watching Family Therapy Podcast with a view of having a glimpse of what other families could be going through. Subscribe to this channel. Let us always gauge our families, bearing in mind, sometimes before we judge and even condemn our families, let us gauge ourselves alongside other families. While I was grappling with the accident to my children, my mother-in-law demanded that I should leave her homestead along with my children. She told me that she wanted to sell the land and I was not welcome since I had refused to be initiated into witchcraft. My children have even been poisoned severally, and it is by the grace of God that they are still alive. Life became very difficult. I kept going to look for casual jobs without success. At some point, I was employed as a casual in a local hospital where we live. I worked as a cleaner. After 1 month, I expected to be paid. I was told that I will be paid the following month. 6 months down the line, I was not paid. All this time, I had incurred so much debts. Basically, from all friends, people that I knew of. Finally, I decided to leave because I realized that the hospital had taken advantage of me. When finally I'd been pushed to the wall, a friend of mine invited to Migori town, saying that I could be lucky to get a job. I left my children under the care of my old mother and journeyed to a place I had never been to, Migori County. In Migori, I got the job of a waiter in a local hotel where I am working as at now. I am paid between Kenya shillings 150 and 250 per day, depending on how the business is performing. It is from these earnings I would send something back for the upkeep of my children, until recently when I went for my 2 young children, aged 6 and 8. Maybe earning very little, but at least I am close to my children. We may sleep on an empty stomach, but at least we have each other, away from witchcraft and hatred. Sometimes I may come home with leftover of food, and together with my children, we celebrate. I normally come home very late, at very odd hours, and sometimes I have to leave home very early. My daughter, at only 8 years, has been forced to know how to cook, clean dishes, and take care of her siblings. When there is money, they cook food. When I have no money, they cook porridge or black tea and go to school. Their daily meals are not guaranteed. I also sometimes eat whatever she has cooked, basically to encourage her. She is not a good cook. Sometimes she cooks food that is still raw, not well cooked. But I'm proud of her and very grateful that she is her brother's keeper. We may be going through challenges, but my satisfaction is that I'm close to my children. Secondly, I was able to shield my darlings from experiencing witchcraft, snakes, among other strange happenings. To those people who may hear my story, I most humbly make a special appeal to you. If you could stand with me with the education of my children, or even hire me for some job in your outfit. With no academic papers, my strength and honesty are my only certificates. I was able to support my first 2 children by brewing local brew, burning charcoal, and the other manual job. Things have since changed after the government cracked hard the whip on brewers. To the government, I plead for assistance to help me get what rightfully belongs to my children. They were dispossessed of their inheritance. They have nowhere to call home. Further, I request that relevant government department may come up with measures to protect widows who are victims of cultural traditional violence. It is unfair and inhuman that a widow can be kicked out of her property like she has no say or right to defend herself. Let there be a complaint desk from where we can get assisted. With no money, I can't even think of hiring a lawyer. To my in-laws, I forgive you totally. I will not carry the pain of hating you in my heart. The burden of my suffering and that of my children is heavy enough. I want to heal. I forgive and let you go. I want my children to grow up without any hindrance in their lives. I don't want my children to hate. I don't want my children to live the pain that I have had to endure. Thank you for listening to my lamentation and how I hope and pray that someone somewhere will be touched by my plea, by my cry. Thank you and God bless you. Once again, viewer, you are watching Family Therapy Podcast with a view of having a glimpse of what other families could really be going through. Subscribe to this channel. Before we condemn our families, let us take a glimpse at other people's families. Maybe, and maybe only then, can we appreciate our families, maybe even appreciate the situation we are going through, albeit very rough. Thank you. My name is George Chacha.